You're listening to The Three Pillars of Success, a podcast that inspires people of all walks of life to gain perspective on what it means to succeed. My name is Geraldine Convento, and I'm best known for entrepreneurship, my skills in web presence, and SEO. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. Hey y'all, how you doing? It's me, Geraldine, the entrepreneur guide, web and SEO expert. And this week's Three Pillars of Success features Leland Thompson. Welcome, Leland.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do for a living?
I'm Leland Thompson. I'm from Oakland, California. I'm an executive coach and leadership trainer.
What do you do for fun?
Quite a few things for fun. I like to hang out with my wife. I also like to roller skate, my bike on the weekends, dabble in a little photography. And believe it or not, I also do acting and modeling for fun. And I also love to play dominoes.
What does success mean to you?
Well, for me, success, and especially in the work that I do, is assisting someone reaching their goals, being there for them, just, side by side along when they're on their journey, but also just witnessing the highs and lows, along with just being that person, their confidant, their voice of reason, that person that they can go to. Success for me is literally losing a client. And when I say losing a client, it's because that client has hit their goals and they're moving on to the next phase in their life. I might lose them for a short period of time, and they come back when they go into the next rung in their career. But that success is really just watching that person grow and move forward.
Now, what are your three pillars that you attribute to success?
Three pillars. The three are reflection, patience, and persistence. When I think about reflection, it's our ability to self-reflect on the actions, our intentions, the results that we achieved, to take that honest look at how we got to where we were or where we are, owning it all, along with the assessing the outside influences that affect our decisions and our actions. So reflection, I think, is extremely important for success. The second thing is patience. Really having patience with yourself and patience with the process. A lot of times we rush into results and we don't give ourselves the patience needed to make those effective changes. We just kind of run to things. And it's really about stopping, stepping back and taking that time and not being so feeling like we got to do it tomorrow. It's got to be done tomorrow. Sometimes a process takes longer than just a tomorrow. It's a 6-month, 12-month, 24-month process. Yeah, we always want to have this sense of urgency about moving forward things because life just moves fast and doesn't wait for us. Sometimes you need to stop and have that level of patience for ourselves and patience with the process. Sometimes the process needs to work itself through. It can't afford to be rushed if we want to get things done right. And the final thing is persistence. Yeah, because we want to reflect and we want to have that patience, but we also want to be persistent in pushing towards the goals, pushing the things that help move people forward. Momentum is that key for persistence. So again, my three pillars that I rely on and I push my clients is reflection, patience, and persistence.
I love that. Patience for the process is really important. When you come to a place where potentially, impatience may come about or something that's totally opposite. Do you have a practice that you do or a way that you stop yourself from being impatient?
Yeah. And it's really, I ask the question, why am I rushing? Why am I feeling this level of angst inside that I want to get it done fast and move fast? I actually start to ask myself those questions that I would normally ask a client in order to begin to realize that I am moving too fast. I do need to slow it down. The process needs this very methodical thing to happen and not for me to rush through it. Because all my career, I've always been one of those people I get an idea and I want to run to it. It popped in my head today. Let's implement it tomorrow. And a lot of times, go ahead.
I said facts.
And a lot of times we need to just sort of step back, put some distance between the thought of doing what we want to do and the actual action of doing it. Be patient with ourselves, map it out. What are those 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that need to be taken in order for this to be a successful process or project or whatever that is we're endeavoring to do? But I have to pull myself back and ask myself those questions. I also have accountability partners that I put in place, people that I work with that say, hey, Leland, you might want to slow down a little bit or give it some more thought. And I would find accountability partners, especially when they know you well, they can see that impatience starting to happen and sort of know when to sort of pull on your coattails and say, hey, slow it down. So between asking myself questions and an accountability partner, that usually helps me in sort of managing that level of impatience that I might have or be experiencing.
What is a roadblock that you had to overcome in your path to success?
It's interesting because you talked about patience. Patience was that roadblock.
Okay.
Seriously, the roadblock. I like to move at 1,000,000 miles an hour, just go and go. You hear that saying, patience is a virtue. And I used to be like, oh, yeah, whatever. It's a virtue. I want to get this thing done. Once I started slowing down and really being patient with myself, and again, also with the process that needs to take place, that roadblock, it was still there because I still run into that to this day, even after being in leadership for all these years. But I recognize it. It's a conscious roadblock as opposed to an unconscious roadblock. I know it's there. I live in the land of possibilities. So projects and ideas come to mind that I want to implement yesterday. So I have to realize that that big roadblock for me is impatience. And I have to make sure that I step back, that I bring in accountability partners on projects so they can let me know of, yeah, it's a great project, great idea, but slow down a little bit. Think about the process and who's involved in that. So my sort of that pillar of patience, it's a benefit. And the opposite, the impatience, can be a roadblock for you in making sure that you do things methodically and do them the right way.
Now you got me thinking about myself. Many of us, and especially entrepreneurs, live in that land of possibility. We're like superheroes, because
Yes.
we've gotten to a place where we're making a living for ourselves or getting to that place where we could. And you start to feel really invincible. You start getting more confident in your own personal beliefs and expressions. And then you start meeting other people who live in the land of possibility and who are very enthusiastic as well. And together you feel like you could be that dream team who could totally change the world and impact everything. Patience and being methodical. I love how you said that. And I think it causes a lot less anxiety when you pursue it in that way. So I'm glad that you're in my circle. So now that when I come across something where I'm being totally impatient or I'm unsure, I can be like, oh yeah, that's right. Leland said this. Let me ask these same questions that were in my podcast. And then if I still need help, maybe I could send Leland a text.
Because you made a great point, Geraldine. As entrepreneurs, we have all these ideas. We want to get things done. Our work and what we produce is our livelihood. We don't have that patience. Yeah, it can wait till next week. It can wait till next month or next year. We want to get it done now. And sometimes that can be the biggest roadblock of not taking the time. So having those individuals in your circle, like you were talking about, is very beneficial, especially as an entrepreneur where we do sometimes suffer from impatience, basically.
Yeah. And I think there's some discernment to be had too about when are you being impatient versus when do you really need to take action? And I believe there's probably a whole different set of questions that you have. I think there's a whole bigger picture that we have to think about. And this it's not only geared toward entrepreneurs. I think in life in general, we always have to look at, well, what's the bigger picture? What are my values? What are my personal goals? Why am I doing this? Because there's spontaneity where like, oh, that's such a great idea. And you get fired up and really enthusiastic in the moment. And then there are other things that are a really brilliant idea that can push you forward in any area of your life. So I think having that place I'm going to go back to what you said, reflect, and then really truly think about, is this for me? How is this going to impact my future or what's important to me? Those are very critical questions to ask yourself as well.
I wish I could add something to that, but you said it all on that. That reflecting piece added into the patience is extremely important.
A lot of the listeners that follow the 3 pillars of success listen to this podcast because they themselves are looking to develop their own definition of success or they're looking to achieve success. So that being said, do you have any advice that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Yes, steer clear of perfection. Perfection, when I think about perfection in my brain, I think procrastination. We trying to get things so perfect, we stall ourselves. We don't move fast enough. We don't launch something when the timing is right because we're looking, it's not perfect yet. And if you think about it, nothing's ever perfect. That's why we have 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 versions of software coming out, because it's never perfect. It's never meant to be perfect. Perfection says there's nothing more for me to achieve, nothing more for me to push for. So my biggest thing for anyone, whether you're an entrepreneur working in an organization or leading a big organization, steer clear of perfection and work towards just really getting things the way you want them to be. For someone else, it might look imperfect, but if it's where you want it to be, that's where it should be. And it's that constant improvement. It's not constant perfection, it's constant improvement. When I hear people going, I don't want to release something, or I don't want to publish this because it's not perfect yet. It's like, well, then you just told yourself you're never going to publish something. You're never going to release something, because perfection is just simply not a reality in the world. We strive towards perfection, but we never kind of get there.
Wow, there were so many impactful things that you said today. For me, particularly, I'm sure for the audience too, but I kind of feel like I had a little coaching session. So this is great. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you agreeing to be on the show. And as you all know who are listening, we broadcast every single Wednesday on every single podcast network that you listen to or others listen to, which is Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Stitcher, everything. This is the 3 Pillars of Success podcast, and we will talk to you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.